When we think of success, wealth, and happiness, most of us imagine them as three different mountains to climb, three separate goals demanding different strategies. But Naval Ravikant, a thinker, entrepreneur, and philosopher of modern times, believed that life is not about climbing three mountains. Instead, it is about learning how to build a path that naturally leads us toward all three. His wisdom, distilled over years of building companies, investing in startups, and reflecting deeply on the meaning of existence, became what we know as the Almanack of Naval Ravikant. This is not just a book of ideas, but a treasure map toward freedom, fulfillment, and true prosperity. Naval did not speak in complicated jargon or abstract theories. Instead, he spoke in simple truths that carry the weight of deep experience. He understood that people want actionable wisdom, the kind of guidance that doesn't just sound good, but can be lived every single day. The foundation of his philosophy begins with wealth, but not wealth in the shallow sense of money alone. For Naval, wealth is about creating assets that earn for you even while you sleep. Assets that keep giving long after you've stopped trading your time. It could be businesses, investments, intellectual property, or even reputation. He wanted people to move away from the trap of endlessly selling their time, because time, once spent, never comes back. He often said, "You're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business, to gain your financial freedom." This principle alone is life-changing because it shifts how we see work. Most of us grow up believing that the harder we work, the richer we become. But in reality, working harder only increases income to a point, while owning something that scales, like a product, code, content, or company, creates compounding wealth. Naval encourages us to build or invest in such assets, to move from labor-based income to freedom-based wealth. But here lies a critical point. Wealth is meaningless without health, and money is empty without happiness. That's why Naval's Almanac is not a book about money. It is a guide to living wisely. He often explained that happiness is a skill, not something gifted to a lucky few. It's not about external achievements, but about mastering one's own mind. Imagine for a moment Bandor, a person who earns millions but cannot sleep peacefully at night. Another person earns modestly but wakes up every morning with joy and gratitude. Who is truly wealthy? For Naval, it was always the second person. Happiness is wealth in its purest form. So how do we achieve this happiness? Naval explained that happiness is learned the same way we learn to play a sport or a musical instrument. It requires awareness, practice, and deliberate choice. One has to first recognize the traps of comparison and envy. As long as we measure our lives by the yardstick of others, peace will forever remain out of reach. Naval advised that the only true measure of progress is comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. This simple shift reduces envy and allows growth to feel natural and joyful. Another part of his wisdom is about judgment. He urged people to avoid constantly judging events, calling them good or bad. He reminded us that what seems like a disaster today may prove to be a blessing tomorrow. He often referenced the ancient story of the farmer who lost his horse, and while neighbors cried about his misfortune, the farmer calmly replied, "May be." The next day, the horse returned with more wild horses. Was that good luck? Maybe. Then his son broke his leg taming one of those horses. Was that bad luck? Maybe. When the army came recruiting young men for war, they skipped the son because of his injury. Was that good luck? Maybe. The point Naval made is timeless. Life unfolds beyond our judgment, and peace comes from acceptance. This connects to his philosophy of leverage. Leverage, Naval explained, is the force multiplier of wealth creation. There are three types: labor, capital, and products with no marginal cost of replication, like software and media. Labor means people working for you. Capital means money working for you. And code or content means creations working for you endlessly. Naval emphasized that in today's age, the last type, code and media, has unprecedented power. With the internet, one piece of work can scale to millions without any additional effort. This is why he often encouraged people to build knowledge-based skills that can create such scalable assets. He would say, code and media are permissionless leverage. They're the ultimate equalizer. For someone listening right now, this is revolutionary because it means you don't need to be born wealthy or powerful to gain leverage. You can learn to write, create videos, build software, or design. These skills don't require permission, and once mastered, they open doors to wealth that keeps compounding. Naval believed strongly in learning, but not in the way schools teach. He valued specific knowledge, not general knowledge. Specific knowledge is knowledge that cannot be easily taught, but is learned through curiosity, passion, and natural talent. It's what you do effortlessly while others struggle. It might be storytelling, coding, designing, analyzing, or leading. When you identify and cultivate your specific knowledge, you create a unique advantage that the market values highly. And here's the key: specific knowledge is never obsolete, because it comes from who you are. Unlike general skills, which can be replaced by machines or others, your unique blend of curiosity and creativity cannot be copied. Naval's wisdom, at its core, is about freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of mind, and freedom to be who you are. He wanted people to recognize that the real goal of wealth is not luxury or status, but the ability to control your time, to wake up and decide how you want to spend your day. Time freedom is the ultimate luxury, and it is the essence of a rich life. But Naval was also clear that this journey is not easy. It requires patience, consistency, and a long-term mindset. He often reminded people that play long-term games with long-term people. This means choosing partners, friends, and collaborators who share your values, who are aligned with your vision, and who are trustworthy. Because in the long run, relationships compound just like wealth. Trust compounds, reputation compounds, even kindness compounds. Think about it. Every good deed, every positive action, builds momentum that echoes far into the future. Naval's own life is proof of this. He built wealth not just by making smart investments, but by building trust, by consistently offering value, and by being a thinker whose words resonated deeply with millions. But behind all this wisdom lies a very human truth. Naval himself struggled just like anyone else. He had moments of doubt, fear, and suffering. What made him different was his ability to observe his own mind and learn from it. He often said that peace comes not from fixing the world, but from fixing how we see the world. By quieting the endless chatter of the mind, by letting go of desires that never end, one discovers a happiness that is independent of circumstances. This is the kind of happiness that doesn't wait for tomorrow or for the next achievement. It exists here and now, in this very moment, if we learn to see it. And so, as we enter deeper into the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, we are not just reading the ideas of one man, we are stepping into a new way of thinking about life, wealth, and happiness. We are learning that true success is not about winning the race against others, but about designing a game you enjoy playing every single day. Naval's wisdom often begins where conventional wisdom ends. Most people think of luck as the deciding factor of success, but he carefully broke down the myth of luck and explained that luck is not entirely out of our control. According to him, there are 4 kinds of luck. The first is blind luck, like finding a $20 bill on the street. The second is luck through persistence, when you keep hustling, trying, knocking on doors, and eventually opportunities open simply because of your relentless energy. The third type is luck that comes from preparation. When you cultivate skills, knowledge, and reputation, opportunities naturally find their way to you because you're positioned to catch them. And the fourth, the rarest, is luck that finds you because of who you are. It's when your unique qualities, your brand, and your authentic self attract opportunities effortlessly. Naval's point was clear. While we can't control blind luck, we can absolutely increase our surface area for the other kinds. By learning, building, and sharing, we magnetize good fortune. This leads us to another principle that he often emphasized: play iterated games. Life is not about winning once, it's about building compounding advantages that keep paying off. Relationships, trust, and reputation all work on compounding. If you betray someone for short-term gain, you might win once, but you've lost the chance to win repeatedly over the long run. By being honest, by keeping promises, and by consistently showing up, you create a reputation that keeps rewarding you for decades. Naval knew that in the modern world, leverage and reputation are far more powerful than brute force. And that's why he urged people to invest in themselves, because your reputation is your shadow. It walks with you everywhere, Once you have credibility, it becomes a powerful engine of opportunity. People will trust you, doors will open, and wealth will follow. But the journey is never just about money. Naval was deeply aware that without inner peace, even the richest person lives like a beggar. He often said that desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Think about it. Every time you desire something, you are telling yourself, I won't be happy until this happens. And when you get it, the happiness is short-lived, quickly replaced by the next desire. This endless cycle is what Buddhists call the wheel of suffering. Naval's solution was not to suppress desire, but to carefully choose desires worth having. Instead of being controlled by every small craving, learn to desire mindfully. For example, desiring health is noble, desiring freedom is noble, desiring knowledge is noble. These are long-term desires that compound into a life of fulfillment, but desiring status, recognition, or material objects endlessly can keep you trapped. The real art is to want less, and by wanting less, you automatically become richer. Naval's thoughts on status are especially profound. He explained that status games are zero-sum. If one person rises in status, another must fall. That's why status games breed jealousy, politics, and endless competition. Wealth creation, on the other hand, is positive-sum. When someone creates wealth by building new products or services, society benefits. That wealth creation makes the world richer, not poorer. Naval advised avoiding status games because they waste energy. Instead, play wealth games, knowledge games, and self-improvement games, because these games create abundance for everyone. This is one of the reasons he stayed away from pointless debates, political fights, or envy-driven competition. He knew that energy is precious and should be channeled into creating, building, and learning. For anyone listening, this is a powerful lesson. The next time you feel drawn into an argument just to prove your superiority, remember that you're stepping into a status game. Walk away. Use that time to read, to build, to create something that will outlast the argument. Naval also spoke about happiness in a very practical way. For him, happiness was not an abstract dream, but a daily practice. One practice he suggested was gratitude. Gratitude turns what you have into enough. Each day, by focusing on what you already possess, your health, your family, your freedom, you reduce the endless craving for more. Another practice was meditation. Naval meditated not as a ritual, but as a tool to observe the mind. He believed that most of our suffering comes from unexamined thoughts. The mind chatters endlessly, spinning stories of fear and regret. By meditating, you create distance from those thoughts and realize you are not your mind. You are the awareness behind it. This realization alone can unlock peace. Yet, Naval never promoted a one-size-fits-all spirituality. He encouraged people to experiment, to find their own path. Some may meditate, some may journal, some may practice gratitude. The form matters less than the essence, which is learning to quiet the mind and live in the present. Naval's reflections on reading also deserve attention. He once said that reading is the ultimate superpower because books are permissionless leverage. When you read, you condense decades of someone else's wisdom into hours. But he did not believe in forcing yourself to finish every book. Instead, he recommended following your curiosity. If a book bores you, drop it. If a book excites you, devour it. Over time, your curiosity will guide you to exactly what you need to learn. He himself read widely across philosophy, science, and economics, and these diverse inputs shaped his unique worldview. Naval's wisdom about health also shines through the Almanack. He reminded us that the three foundations of life are wealth, health, and happiness, and without health, the others collapse. Money cannot buy back a failing body. That's why he valued exercise, sleep, and nutrition as essential investments. He believed that building a fit body is not vanity, it is discipline. It is the base that supports creativity, energy, and longevity. He often repeated, "A fit body, a calm mind, a house full of love, these things cannot be bought. They must be earned." This single line captures his philosophy. True wealth is holistic. It's not the size of your bank account, but the quality of your mind, body, and relationships. Naval's reflections on love and relationships also go deep. He recognized that love is not something you demand, but something you give freely. He valued authenticity in relationships, preferring honesty over appearances. He often said that you cannot be loved for who you truly are until you show who you truly are. Many people hide behind masks, seeking approval, but in doing so they miss real connection. Naval believed that vulnerability, honesty, and self-awareness are the keys to love. His advice extended to choosing a partner wisely. He said that the most important choice in life is not your career or your investments, but your spouse, because that relationship will shape your happiness more than anything else. When it came to decision-making, Naval had a unique philosophy. He believed that most decisions should be made with a long-term perspective. If something will not matter in 10 years, don't waste 10 minutes worrying about it. This simple filter clears away endless trivial concerns. He also emphasized the power of saying no. Every yes is a contract that ties up your time and energy. By saying no to distractions, you protect your ability to say yes to the things that truly matter. For Naval, freedom was always the goal. Freedom not just from money worries, but from time constraints, from mental noise, from unhealthy relationships. True freedom, he said, is when your happiness is not tied to external circumstances. That's why he called himself a perennial student of life. No matter how much success he achieved, he kept learning, reflecting, and evolving. He saw life not as a destination, but as an endless journey of self-discovery. His wisdom reminds us that the richest life is not lived in luxury, but in clarity, peace, and purpose. As we continue deeper into the Almanack, it becomes clear that Naval was not trying to create followers, but thinkers. He did not want people to blindly adopt his beliefs. Instead, he wanted them to use his words as tools, to test them, to adapt them, and to discover their own truth. His life was proof that with curiosity, courage, and consistency, anyone can design a life of freedom and fulfillment. One of Naval's most striking insights is his understanding of how technology has reshaped the landscape of opportunity. In the past, if you wanted to reach millions, you needed permission from gatekeepers, publishers, broadcasters, or corporations. Today, with the internet, those gates have fallen. Anyone with curiosity and creativity can build an audience, share knowledge, and create wealth without asking for approval. This is why Naval spoke so much about permissionless leverage. For him, code and media were the great equalizers of our age. He often explained that when you build software, it can run for millions without extra cost. When you create content, a podcast, a video, or a book, it can reach countless people without additional effort. In this way, the internet multiplies your work infinitely. But Naval was clear that the key lies in authenticity. You cannot fake passion, because the internet exposes dishonesty quickly. To succeed, you must lean into your genuine curiosity and your unique voice. Over time, this builds trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. He encouraged creators to think long-term. If you chase quick trends, you may gain short attention but not lasting impact. If you build consistently, aligning with your true interests, you create an audience that stays with you for life. He often reminded people that building an audience is like building compounding wealth. It grows slowly but powerfully over time. Naval's reflections on learning are equally transformative. He insisted that we are all lifelong learners, but most people waste time memorizing facts instead of cultivating curiosity. He argued that knowledge is not about stacking information, but about developing mental models. Mental models are frameworks that help you understand reality. For example, the concept of opportunity cost teaches you that every choice comes at the cost of another. Once you adopt this model, your decision-making improves across all areas of life. Naval urged people to collect such models from science, economics, psychology, and philosophy. The more models you have, the more clearly you can see reality. Reading widely was his method of acquiring them, and curiosity was his compass. He saw curiosity not as a weakness, but as the ultimate guide to specific knowledge. Another dimension of Naval's wisdom is his view on work. He didn't believe in hustling endlessly for the sake of appearances. He saw work as something that should align with your natural gifts. He said that if you play games that you enjoy, work feels like play. But if you play games set by others, work feels like slavery. The goal is to find or create a game where your work feels like play, but looks like work to others. This is where leverage and specific knowledge come together. Naval himself was not interested in competing for traditional jobs. Instead, he built companies, invested in startups, and explored ideas that fascinated him. He aligned his work with his curiosity, and this is why he thrived. His story is a reminder that the highest form of success is to do what you would do for free, and yet be rewarded abundantly for it. Naval also reflected deeply on the role of society's expectations. He saw that much suffering comes from chasing goals that others set for us. Many people become doctors, lawyers, or engineers, not because they love the work, but because society told them it is prestigious. Naval urged people to escape this trap. He advised, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you play status games, you get envy. If you play society's games, you get stress. But if you play your own game, guided by curiosity and authentic values, you get fulfillment. He believed that courage is the rarest skill, the ability to reject what everyone else expects and design your own life. It takes courage to quit a safe job, to build something new, to choose a path less traveled. But that courage is rewarded because authenticity always compounds. Naval's advice on decision-making extended beyond work into personal philosophy. He often said, all the real scoreboards are internal. The external world measures success by money, fame, or followers, but the internal scoreboard measures peace, growth, and integrity. The moment you start playing to your own scoreboard, life changes. You are no longer enslaved by external judgment. You gain freedom to act in alignment with your truth. And freedom, for Naval, was the ultimate goal. He described freedom in 3 layers. The first is financial freedom, where you no longer trade time for money. The second is time freedom, where you control your schedule. And the third, the deepest, is freedom of mind, where you are no longer controlled by desires, fears, or external validation. Many people achieve the first, fewer achieve the second, and very few reach the third. But Naval believed the journey toward all 3 is the essence of a good life. Naval also believed in the power of compounding beyond just money. He said that all of life's most valuable things compound. Knowledge, relationships, reputation, and habits. If you read daily, your knowledge compounds. If you exercise regularly, your health compounds. If you invest in relationships with kindness and trust, love compounds. And if you build a reputation of integrity, opportunities compound. This is why he often reminded people not to underestimate small actions. Daily habits, good or bad, are seeds of compounding. They may seem insignificant today, but in 10 years, they define your destiny. Another area where Naval brought clarity was the subject of retirement. He argued that retirement is not the goal. The real goal is to live a life where you don't need to retire. For him, retirement was not about quitting work, but about gaining the freedom to do only what you love. He explained 3 forms of retirement. The first is when you save enough money to never work again. The second is when you find work that feels like play. And the third is when you stop being defined by work altogether and live fully in the present. This perspective is liberating because it shifts focus from escaping work to creating a meaningful life. It reminds us that retirement should not be a finish line, but a byproduct of building a life aligned with passion and freedom. Naval's perspective on wealth creation was not about chasing millions for luxury, but about gaining peace of mind. He often said that money solves money problems, nothing more. Beyond a certain point, more money does not make you happier. What makes you happy is clarity, health, love, and freedom. So, while building wealth is important, chasing it endlessly without balancing other aspects of life leads to emptiness. Naval's journey teaches us that the pursuit of wealth must be paired with the cultivation of wisdom. Wealth without wisdom is slavery. Wisdom without wealth may lack security, but together they create true freedom. As we reflect on Naval's philosophy, we begin to see a unifying theme. Life is not about chasing everything, it is about choosing carefully. Choosing the right desires, the right games, the right people, and the right habits. Every choice compounds. Every choice is a step toward freedom or bondage. Naval's Almanack is not a rigid doctrine, but a compass. It does not tell you exactly where to go, but it gives you principles to navigate the vast sea of life. It invites you to think, to question, and to create your own path. His life and words stand as proof that in an age of distraction and noise, wisdom still matters. Authenticity still wins, and simplicity still shines the brightest. Naval often reminded people that life is short, but it is also long enough if you live it with clarity. Too many people drift through existence chasing things they don't even want, only to realize too late that they lived someone else's script. He urged everyone to pause, to reflect, and to ask the deeper questions. What truly matters to me? What do I want my days to look like? Who do I want to spend my time with? What do I want to give back to the world? For Naval, wealth and happiness were not separate pursuits, but reflections of the same principle, alignment. When your values, actions, and desires align, you live effortlessly. Misalignment, on the other hand, breeds suffering. A person may be rich, but if he earns money in ways that violate his values, he feels hollow. A person may be famous, but if he gains that fame by pretending to be someone he is not, he feels trapped. Alignment means living your truth unapologetically. Naval encouraged people to find silence and solitude, because in silence you can hear your own voice. The world is loud, filled with opinions, news, and distractions. But silence reveals your intuition. He himself spent hours alone, reflecting, journaling, or simply sitting quietly. He valued this inner work as much as any business deal because clarity of mind is the foundation of all success. Naval's approach to learning was not just intellectual, but experiential. He believed that you do not truly know something until you live it. Reading about kindness is not the same as practicing kindness. Reading about discipline is not the same as exercising daily. Wisdom is applied knowledge, and that is why Naval always lived his lessons. His calm, his clarity, his independence were not just words, but lived realities. He understood that example is more powerful than advice. Another aspect of Naval's wisdom was his refusal to be overly optimistic or pessimistic. He valued rationality. He saw reality as it is, not as he wished it to be. This is why his investment choices were often brilliant, because he could see trends and truths clearly, without emotional distortion. He often said that rational optimism is the right mindset for life. It means believing in the possibility of progress, but staying grounded in facts. Naval also gave timeless advice on how to avoid misery. He suggested avoiding anger, envy, and resentment at all costs, because these emotions harm you more than anyone else. He advised people to forgive quickly, not because others deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. He explained that holding on to grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The wise path is to let go. Naval's wisdom extended even into the topic of children and legacy. He said that the best gift you can give your children is not money but values, independence, and self-awareness. Money may vanish, but values endure. Independence ensures they can thrive in any world. Self-awareness ensures they can find happiness regardless of circumstances. He often reflected that legacy is not about monuments or fame. It is about the ripples you create in people's lives. If your words, actions, or creations improve even one life, you have left a legacy. Naval himself never sought fame, yet his words continue to shape millions of lives, which is perhaps the highest form of legacy. One of the most powerful parts of his philosophy is the idea that happiness is our default state. He believed that children are naturally happy until society teaches them comparison, fear, and desire. To return to happiness, one must unlearn much of what society has conditioned. Happiness is not something you chase, but something you allow. It is already within you, waiting to be uncovered when you stop resisting life. Naval's almanac is filled with paradoxes that reveal deep truths. For example, he said that to be rich, seek wealth, not money or status. To be happy, seek peace, not pleasure. To be wise, seek truth, not comfort. These paradoxes remind us that real success lies beyond superficial appearances. He also advised people to judge life by the quality of their days. If you can design a day that feels fulfilling, and you repeat it, you have designed a life worth living. For Naval, a perfect day was simple: waking up rested, spending time with loved ones, exercising, reading, creating, and having freedom to follow curiosity. Notice that none of these require extreme luxury. They require freedom and alignment. That is why he believed that the good life is accessible to anyone willing to simplify and focus. Naval also reflected on mortality. He acknowledged that death is inevitable, but instead of fearing it, he used it as a compass. Remembering mortality makes us humble and grateful. It reminds us not to waste time on trivialities. It teaches us to love deeply while we can, to create boldly while we are alive, and to forgive while it still matters. In his words, the purpose of life is not to conquer death, but to live so fully that death loses its sting. His reflections often circled back to freedom. He believed that the highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up and do what you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want. Everything else is secondary. He warned that chasing luxury for its own sake is a trap. True luxury is freedom of time and peace of mind. He explained that peace comes when you drop unnecessary desires, freedom comes when you stop renting your time, and love comes when you stop pretending. These three, peace, freedom, and love, are the pillars of a fulfilled life. Naval's wisdom resonates because it is not about becoming someone else, but about becoming yourself fully. He did not preach sacrifice for the sake of sacrifice. He did not glorify suffering for its own sake. Instead, he glorified clarity, self-awareness, and alignment. He showed that success is not about adding more, but about removing what does not serve you. Remove envy, remove lies, remove distractions, remove fear, and what remains is freedom. As we close the journey through his almanac, we see that Naval was not offering shortcuts but principles. Principles that, when lived, transform ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. His teachings are not bound by culture or time. They are as relevant today as they will be decades from now because they are rooted in human nature. The Almanack of Naval Ravikant is ultimately a reminder that wealth, health, and happiness are not destinations but practices. They are daily choices, small compounding actions, and deep awareness. You do not stumble into a rich life by accident. You design it intentionally, patiently, and authentically, and you do not need to wait for tomorrow to begin. Naval would say, start now. Start by reading, by reflecting, by creating, by choosing carefully what you want and letting go of what you don't. Start by being present, grateful, and curious. Life is not a rehearsal, it is the performance. Wealth is not just money, it is freedom. Happiness is not just pleasure, it is peace. Success is not just winning, it is alignment. When you live these truths, you live richly. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: the meaning of life is not to chase meaning, but to live so authentically, so freely, and so fully, that meaning emerges naturally in every breath, every smile, and every act of creation.